You're, you're. Y'all know what time it is. Y'all know what time it is. Today is about to be another great day. It is another episode of After the Breaks. I'm your host, Mouse Jones. What's going on? Where is everybody from? Where everybody from? We waiting on everybody to get in here. Where's everybody at? What's going on? Where's my man? Oh no. Boom. Yeah, we just waiting on our guest for this evening. Oh no. We got Taylor. We got Nikki. We about to have a good evening. Make sure if you guys haven't, make sure you guys listen to Here Comes the Breaks, starring Asante Black. It's a great story. It's everywhere you get your podcast. It's on iHeart. It's on Apple. It's wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you listen. Here Comes the Break, starring Asante Black. Like we've been talking about, literally like we've been talking about all for the past 3 weeks. It is a podcast surrounding the mental health and wellness. Yo, and if we got any artists in here, today, Tay, what's going on?
Oh, hey, here we go,
All
live and
right,
at
yeah,
it.
we here.
Absolutely.
Let me try and get Nikki in here. Oh, I don't know. What's her Instagram name again?
I think it's straight Nakia Hill, like Nakia_Hill.
Yeah. I'm not seeing her come up.
She may be getting herself correct, maybe getting the room ready for
Okay.
video performance. You know, we've been doing a lot of audio in the podcasting game, so she's
Right.
doing it remotely.
Well, I do have you here, so let's talk. If the people are unaware, let the audience know what it is that you do, why it is that you are the podcast god.
Well, I've been the showrunner for Here Comes the Breaks. So that's, if this was a Netflix series, that's the person who coordinates all the production and
Right.
oversees the writing of the script. So that's our parallel. We envision this as sort of a hybrid between a scripted audio drama where you're getting this story that's exploring these themes, where these themes of mental health and struggle in sort of the hot light of new internet fame.
Right.
And so we have the scripted portion with that. But the thing that's bringing this fame to our characters is these cool interviews that we've got going with all of these hot new artists. And so we managed to bring a little real life, literally, along with dealing with these real themes in the scripted segments and just kind of weave them together in the show.
Do you see yourself in any of these characters? Because I know us growing up in a different time. Like
Hey.
Nikhil, what's going on?
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Hey,
Wow.
Taylor.
Hey,
So
how's it going?
so I was asking Taylor. So like, do you see yourself in any of these characters? Because us growing up in a different generation and our experiences with traumatic events or even depression or any type of mental health, there wasn't any real open platforms to discuss it. So now you guys have created these kids that we probably see every day, and they have this outlet. Do you see yourself in any of these characters?
Yeah, I would definitely say Janelle, who is the female character.
Mm-hmm.
That's like my character when I came in that I really got to build a personality, um, and just being a human, facing anxiety every day, especially during the past, year that we've been in with the pandemic. I can definitely relate to all of the characters. Also, uh, many moons ago, I also had an online magazine where I covered independent artists. So, like, I brought a lot of that work from being a music journalist and just loving indie artists into the writing of this podcast.
Oh, so you all over up and down this script.
Definitely, definitely, yeah. I had fun writing and working with Taylor. It was great.
What about you, Taylor? You see any of yourself in any of these characters?
Yeah, I found myself identifying a lot with Ruben, particularly as we developed the season and wrote it, a couple times through. The audience will get the opportunity to see as the season develops that as Ruben gets more and more of the spotlight, he deals with more and more issues of mental health and multiple potential diagnoses. He's dealing with anxiety and stuff in these early episodes. But that really comes from my story. It's like I do have some direct experience with that, and I wanted to use this as a vehicle to talk about some of those issues. And like you said, sort of bring that out into the open in a way that maybe when we were growing up, it wasn't as open.
So I want to talk about today's episode where Ruben gets caught. Ruben gets caught blue-handed, red-handed, whatever the color. His ass is grass. And there's this discourse, and I loved it personally because there's this discourse between him and his parents, that just hit on so many different levels. Obviously, we're gonna hit all of them. So the one I typically enjoyed the most was one that was so foreign to me was the actual way his parents let. There's this space that was given, this space of, there was this grace given to him to express his anger and frustration with his parents that is typically not seen in a black household. Nakia, can you touch upon that? He's cursing at them. He used the word damn, ass. To this day, I can't say those words around my parents, and I still got to kind of tiptoe if my mother upsets me. So please, could you talk about that, writing that and the way you built that?
Yeah, I would say the same. Like, I would not use that language if I'm speaking to any of the elders in my life. However, I have a 19-year-old brother, and I work with youth, and they're just the Gen Z generation. They're on a whole nother level. The way they express themselves, and I was talking to my brother earlier about, like, watch your mouth, like,
Mm-hmm.
respect me. I'm your older sister. So, like, I really pulled into, like, that's how not all but some younger generations are communicating, and where it's not like where, when I was growing up, you talk back, you get popped in the mouth. Nowadays, parents, you don't do that. Parents want to encourage their children to express themselves, of course, in a respectful way, but that's really how some teens communicate. They'll get checked. However, that's how they communicate, and parents are parenting these days sometimes.
Taylor, how was that? Growing up, did you have that leeway with your parents? Were you able to
No,
express? No,
no
not you,
way.
Nikki. I meant Taylor.
Oh, I was about to say,
Taylor, did you have that? Did you have that leeway? Did you have that grace to express yourself with your parents when you
Yeah,
were
I
angry
mean,
or upset?
in theory, I did. We weren't a very conflict-heavy household. It's like I was the oldest of three, and I think that as it happens, the younger kids are the more boundary-pushing ones, and the oldest one follows the rules a little more.
Mm.
So, I didn't have as many of those in my personal life. Didn't have as many of those direct tensions in my youth going on. I think going a little older, I started to have to own my own ability to have conflicts and stuff like that. So in identifying with Ruben again, I think sort of feeling that out and, showing someone who that's not their natural mode of communication and starting to lash out. I think, for Ruben's mom and dad, I think part of it is just that they're surprised because he has been more of a soft-spoken character up to this point where he's really starting to fight to figure himself out, and he's got this multiple identities thing going on.
Now, the another part that was seemingly it wasn't foreign to me, but it was foreign in the way it was so open. Like there shout out to you guys first of all for this writing. Shout out to Asante and the other voice actors for being able to get this across. There was a level of explaining themselves that Ruben's mother and father did. That typically, once again, in a black household, you don't see that. It's do as I say and get the hell on and do it faster before I get upset. In this, and it might be for the same reasons, right? Where there was this pivotal moment where I was also, as a listener, I was confused. I'm like, why does she care so much about him doing this? And she had mentioned, the hate and the trolls that were under his post when he went viral for freestyling. But then she said, I don't want my son out, my black son out here not knowing where he is. And it brings up that very real, especially in today's climate, it brings up that very real situation and topic that lives in all black families right now. That it's essentially your black child can't really have a childhood. It's you're under this police state, and the fact that she was able to open up and explain that and express that to him, I felt the genuine fear for her, but then there was also a level of, Mom, you gotta let go a little bit. Can you talk about that? And can you talk about writing that and conveying that message?
I think that's something we definitely worked on in striking that balance over a few drafts. We definitely focused a little bit in on that scene and finding the right voice for Mom and, and what she wanted to express there. Nikki, I don't know if you want to speak to it a little bit in more detail as well.
Yeah, I definitely remember that moment when we were writing that scene, early on, and that was really real. Being a Black woman, having Black men in my life that I love and adore, like that was a real moment. And I was just really tapping into how I feel when my brothers are, my brother's like skating at the skateboard park at night, or my brother that works, evenings and overnight shifts, and like that real reality that sometimes, black moms and Black women, we're afraid that, our sons won't make it home, our husbands and our partners won't get home because of, the way that society unfortunately fears us, because it is, a ridiculous level of fear. And we're seeing, and we're in the height of the Black Lives Matter movement. And I feel like that was just, I thought it was important, and Taylor and we were discussing that, like, what would a mom say? And like, it's important for a mother to tell their son, like, the reason why you have curfew is because, or the reason why we need to go over when you're driving and you get pulled over. Like, that is a thing that we have to talk to our Black men about, young Black boys. So yeah, that was a really, really emotional and real movie that I really wanted to capture.
And once again, kudos to you guys on this episode, because just in this conversation, so many ebbs and flows. You guys went so many places and still brought it home. It was like, oh, this is kind of what, for somebody who grew up in the 90s, like, oh, this is what I wanted sitcoms to be like growing up. I didn't want it to be this cheesy, like it gets ugly sometimes. It gets ugly, and sometimes there's no resolve at the end of 30 minutes. You know what I mean? In this specific moment, there was no resolve. It felt like, and still in this very emotional, emotions running high in this moment, it still was like times for nuance where they were, Ruben's parents were like, a podcast. So what's a podcast? Let me ask you guys, in making this show, making the script, what made it be a podcast as the vehicle of this podcast?
Yeah, Taylor, you want to speak to that?
Sure. I mean, it is certainly a little meta, it's like layers and layers nesting.
Little what's that movie with Leonardo DiCaprio?
Oh yeah, Inception. It's
Inception.
Yeah, we're going down the rabbit hole. I think part of it was just the fact that we knew we were making a podcast, and so having that nesting thing it's like it allows us to work within the format. In the first couple of episodes, the artist interviews came at the end of the episode, but now we've literally got it nested in the middle where we go, into the story with Ruben and his friends, and then we go into their podcast they're making, and then we come back out into the story with Ruben and his friend. And, it allows us to kind of work within the medium and sort of allows us to sort of have that meta level. But then it also allows us to play, with what I was talking about kind of at the start when you were first asking me about the format of the show and introducing the show, which is weaving in not only real life themes in our scripted segments, but real life interviews that talk about those themes and sort of making them bound together into the one show.
What you've done a hell of a job of, like, literally, not just because it's work. Like, I listen every week. I opted not to listen to the early episode. I was like, no, I want to hear this every week because I want to get the same feeling that the people are getting. And as somebody who, I've been podcasting since 2014, it's like to know that podcasting has now gone from this very niche thing, which it still is, but it's going from this very niche thing to where, like, you were 26 to about 34 listening. Now there are kids listening. There are kids listening to podcasts. There are kids wanting to be podcasters, and it not being a, oh, well, this didn't work type of thing. Can you speak about that, about, maybe this being something that can influence a kid who wants to be a part of hip hop culture, but may not want to be a rapper, may not want to be a photographer, like wants to be a podcaster?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it does. It's all about, like you said, niche doesn't just mean like a small sector. It also means like finding your niche, And so there's so many opportunities in podcasting. It's really blown up. And it's just another one of those fields where the way that video has become so democratized and easy to do on your phone, everyone has the ability, to launch without a lot of cost, to start doing this on their own and sort of experimenting with it. And you can really build up your expertise and your fluency and your following just DIY, which is, part of what's so exciting about this whole media space we find ourselves in these days.
Yeah, well, we really hope that the youth and even adults can be inspired, which I think is really cool about the story is like, I can let my students who are in elementary and middle school, and maybe not the elementary, but the middle school and high school students listen to it. And then also just like my friends can be entertained as adults as well. And like and it also teaches people, like, you don't have to wait for a record label to sign you, a publication to publish your piece, or, to get picked up by iHeartRadio. Like, you can literally, if you have a smartphone, you can literally hit record, download, some editing systems and, create magic on your own. You don't have to wait for anyone to create that opportunity for you. And that's exactly what Ruben does on this podcast.
He literally goes upstairs, so he gets in trouble. It was one of those, my favorite movie is ATL, and it was very reminiscent of that scene where Nunu gets caught, hanging out in the trap, and they have that argument, and her dad, Mr. Garnett, is like, go upstairs. You know what I mean? And Ruben goes upstairs, and what I loved the most was it wasn't typical teen angst. I hate mom, dad, because it could have been that, right? Because this is all his POV. It could have been, I hate mom, dad, they just don't get it. No, Ruben goes upstairs and gets right back to work.
Right, he's like, I got to get that work regardless.
He got to get that work.
Make it happen.
So what went into creating this, or not even creating, what went into the maturation of Ruben's character this episode? Because what we seen him shed that super angsty, anxious personality that we seen in the last episode where, he ran from the security. He actually was there and he was standing tall. He was going to get his interview. And then he stood up to his parents and advocated for himself, and then went upstairs and didn't stay in his feelings and got back to work. What went into the building that arc? What went into building that?
Well, I think for Ruben, there's a sort of like crossing the threshold, right? It's like once that line is crossed, then there's a sort of rush of feeling alive, right? And I think that he kind of is riding that as he goes upstairs and stays focused on his work. And he's kind of got this adrenaline pumping thing going, whereas over those first few episodes, he was so anxious about how quickly the podcast was growing and whether or not he would be able to live up to these things, and excited to get Janelle in there as support because, he was like nervous about going to live shows. And he's like you said, he still runs away from the guy at the line in episode 3. So in this episode, even with him going into the studio to do the interview on his own, he's kind of feeling himself, building that up the whole episode. And it falls out from under him when he has to confront his parents. But, it's like it always is with that kind of thing. Once you've broken the barrier, it's not as bad as it's fine as you think. The water's fine, So I think for Ruben, it's sort of the culmination of those first 2 episodes of him waffling so much on the anxiety that once he finally has this initial confrontation, it kind of liberates him to start being a lot more bold. And, no spoilers, but we're going to see that in the next couple of episodes for sure.
Absolutely. And you hit it right, like that, for him to understand what it is like to advocate for himself. And throughout each episode, it's really about like Ruben finding his voice. I don't want to give too much away, but like as you listen to each episode, like this is what we deal with as humans. Like we go on this journey to, chase after, our what we've been put on this earth here to do, and it's really about finding one's voice.
Well, listen, I don't want to hold you guys up too much longer. I know you guys probably have some more great storylines to work on. Season 2. If you need any voice acting from Mouse Jones, I am available.
I can see that happening.
Listen, I can play a great 16-year-old or whatever age you need me to be.
Okay.
Have your people call me. Don't even call my people. Call me directly.
Cool.
But yes, do you want to tell the people where they can follow you, or what's next, or your any other endeavors?
Yeah, keep listening because, although we finished recording this season, we still have some treats that we're going to be releasing, some more artist interviews. So like artists that are new and some seasoned artists. So just stay tuned because we still have some heat coming for sure. But listen, share, listen to it on iHeartRadio, wherever you listen to your podcast. Definitely check it out. Share it with your friends, your mama, your kid, your students. I definitely shared the podcast with my students because I was nervous. I wanted to hear what they thought because, the young people in my life really inspired the different nuances of each of the characters, for sure.
Absolutely.
What about you, Taylor?
And, same. Everyone keep on listening. Keep your ear to the ground. Follow the official Here Comes Break account. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at @TayByDay. We'll as Nakia said, we're going to have some extra goodies coming as the season moves forward and with the end of season coming up. And we look forward to doing this again. I hope we get to chat again as we get some of the plot reveals and stuff coming up towards the end of the season.
Please, let's do that. Like I said, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate the story. I'm keeping true to my word. I will not listen to those early episodes. I am tuning every week. So thank you guys for your time. You guys are home, like I said at the beginning. Make sure you are listening on iHeartRadio, wherever you get your podcast. It's Here Comes the Breaks. It is an amazing story about mental health and wellness, about our youth and kids just trying to break through and make a name for themselves. Make sure you listen to that. I am Mouse Jones. I've had the pleasure of talking to these great creators and contributors. So once again, thank you, Taylor. Thank you, Nakia. And
For your time.
I will see you guys same place, 7 p.m. next Wednesday.
All right. Have a good night.
Have a great one.